Hi, and thanks for logging on to the Daily Dvar, and here's a brand new halacha for you, and it's for Monday, the 18th day of February. Here we go. Today we do the halacha about eating cake for a dessert at the end of a meal and whether a separate mazonos is necessary after you have already made hamotzi on the meal. We taught you yesterday that the general rule is that most desserts need their own bracha, like fruit or something, because they're eaten very separate from the meal. Cake is interesting. You see, pas haba bekisnin, whatever that is exactly. It means, some people say that it means pocket bread, but pas haba bekisnin clearly gets its own borei mine mazonos if it's eaten at the end of a meal. The only thing is that there's a huge confusion amongst all the rabbis as to what exactly pas haba bekisnin is. Most of the cakes that we eat, we're not certain if they fall into that category or not. If they were in that category, they would get their own borei mine mazonos, but since we're not certain, then we have to be lenient. Generally, the rule is that we're always lenient in brachos. So when you eat cake at the end of a meal, leniency says, this might be already in the category of bread, somewhat, and it might not need a bracha, and therefore the safest thing to do is to not make a bracha on cake when eaten at the end of a meal. There are some people who, because of this confusion, that cake is never going to be in a certain category, whether it does or doesn't need a bracha at the end of a meal. Some people don't want to be in such a doubtful situation, and they choose not to have cake as dessert of hamotzi meals, period, because of that reason. There are others who feel that a better solution is to just bench, finish your meal, and after the meal, make a borei mine mazonos on your cake, which is certainly not going to fall under that other doubtful thing because you're now outside of your meal, and they make a borei mine mazonos on their cake, and they're done. There are other things that you could consider which would take you out of the doubtful situation. Some say that when you make the hamotzi at the beginning of the meal, think to yourself that it is covering the all bread, even things similar to bread, like the cake that I might eat at the end of the meal, and then you certainly won't need a bracha on your cake at the end of the meal. You also can rely on Rav Moshe Feinstein Zatzal, who was of the opinion that most of the cakes, not all, but most of the cakes that we eat today are pretty much too close to the bread category to need their own separate mazonos at the end of a meal. So cake at the end of a meal is rather a confusion. Generally the rule will be that you don't make a bracha on it at dessert. And finally, I should just add that fruit-filled pies, they are almost definitely the exact definition of pas haba bekisnin, the pocket bread of the Talmud, and therefore if you eat those at the end of the meal, they would almost certainly need their own borei mine mazonos. Thanks for logging on. Log on again tomorrow for more. Bye-bye.